Raise your hand if you feel like your salary is shrinking every month and then one more tax gets added and all you see is PAYE, NSSF eating up your sleep. Now imagine what happens if tax go up again in Kenya. Is it just more money going to government or is it actually going to crash your life, your business and your whole economy? In this video, I am going to break it down in a plain language using real data from 2025 to 2026 and you should know what to do next. This is not a clickbait. Right now, Kenya's economy is growing, but it is also very fragile. Inflation is hovering around 4 to 4.5%. Salaries are barely keeping up, and the government is under pressure to collect over 2.7 trillion in taxes this year, up from previous year. If they raise taxes again, it is not just about numbers on papers. It affects your take-home pay, the price of your food, fuel, and rent, and how easy or hard it is to start or grow a business in Kenya. By the end of this video, you will know what already changed in the 2025 to 2026 tax laws, what will change if taxes go up again, and what you can do today to protect your money and your businesses. Okay, cool. Now, let's talk about what is happening right now. Kenya's 2025 to 2026 budget was presented by CS for National Treasury, who is called John Mbadi. The government is aiming to collect about Kenyan shilling 2.7 trillion through taxes this financial year, and the rest from loans and grants. That's a lot of money. But right now, KRA is already struggling to its target. In the first quarter of 2025 to 2026, tax collection fell short, and the government is even talking about a supplementary budget to plug the gap. So when people say taxes might go up again, they are not guessing. They are reacting to the real pressure that is on the government to find more revenue, you know. And let's talk about income tax and what changed in 2025 in 2025 to 2026. Let's talk about your salary first because most of us are pay people. Right now, the official pay structure looks like this. First, Kenyan shilling 24,000 per month is taxed at 10%. Next, Kenyan shilling 8,003 25% and the rest at 30 to 35% depending on how high you go. You also get a personal relief of Kenyan shilling 2,400 per month on your slip. But here is a thing. The Financial Act 2025 started chipping away at that relief and at a pension tax break. Some experts have warned that even without raising headline rates, the system is already making a net salary smaller for many Kenyans. Now in 2026, the government wants to table a tax law, a tax law amendment 2026 in a bill, expand the low tax band from Kenyan shilling 24,000 to 30,000, introduce a 25% rate between Kenyan shilling 30,000 and 50,000. On the surface, moving from 24k to 30k at a lower rate sounds good. But remember, the government is also losing revenue from other areas like VAT exemption and the pension tax breaks. So, some of that relief might be balanced by higher taxes elsewhere. Okay? Now, let's talk about VAT and everyday good. Cool? Now, let's talk about what you actually buy every day, daily. Maize flours, cooking oil, transport, hospital bills, school fees. Most of these are now under 16% VAT instead of being exempt or zero rated. Yeah? And the Finance Act of 2025 removed a lot of VAT exemption in sectors like manufacturing and healthcare. So, even if your salary doesn't fall, your shopping bill, goes up. Think about it. A 16% tax on more goods means producer pass some of it to you as a consumer. That pushes up inflation pressure at a time when inflation is already around 4 to 4.5% annually. So when people say taxes might go up again, they are not just guessing. Okay? They are talking about your sleep. They are talking about more VAT on food, more taxes on services, and more levies on a digital transaction. Okay? So what happens if these taxes go up again? What will happen? If taxes go up again in in this Kenya we are living, it usually won't be a one big headline. It will be a three main moves that the government is likely to use. Number one, higher income tax rates or a lower relief. Number two, more VAT on more goods and services. Number three, it is new levies on excise duties, alcohol, telecoms, and data, things like that. Let's break down each one of them in a real one numbers. Higher income tax. Imagine this. Right now, the first Kenyan shilling 24,000 is taxed at 10%. What if it jumps to 15%? For someone earning Kenyan shilling 40k a month, that extra 5% could mean a severe 100 extra shillings eh, that you won't see in your salary. If they also remove or reduce a Kenyan shilling 2400 personal relief, that's another 2400 gone from your pocket every year. It is spread across each month. Now the government might say we are only taxing the rich more, but the expert at firms like EY and Grant Thornton have warned that Kenya's tax system is already heavy on middle income earners. So if taxes go up again, you, a salaried worker, might feel it more than a big corporation. That is a thing that you should know. Okay? And now let's talk about VAT hikes and your shopping bill. Let's make this real. Suppose you go to supermarket every week with a Kenyan shilling 5,000 budget. Everything there already has a 16% VAT on many items. If the government raises VAT to 18% or even to 20%, even on a few products, your total bill can creep up. For example, if a VAT goes from 16% to 18%, that is a 2% point increase on a taxed good. On a Kenyan shilling 5,000 basket, that could mean an extra 100 or 200 per week just from tax alone. Multiply that over a month. That is hundreds of extra shillings you didn't budget for. And that is exactly how the inflation pressure builds. Okay? Cool. Now let's talk about excess duties, fuel, alcohol, phones, and data. Okay? Now, how many of you, let me ask this, how many of you check petrol prices before you leave home? Because every time the government increases the fuel excise duty, that pump the price up. Okay? Same thing with alcohol and cigarettes, mobile data and call bundles, cable, cables and the internet packages. These are all areas where excess duties have been raised in recent years, and the government can easily raise them again without asking you. In fact, they are not asking us already. Here is the domino effect. Higher fuel is leads to higher transport cost and higher prices for food deliveries, matatus, and good transport. Higher data tax is equals to more expensive internet. And small businesses and creators pay more to operate online. So, tax is not just on your salary slip. It is hidden in the price of almost everything that you touch. Okay? Cool. What this does to our economy? What will it do? Let's step back and look at a bigger picture. Okay? Right now, Kenya's economy is growing, but inflation is still there, and wages are not rising fast enough. If taxes go up again, people have less money to spend. Businesses see a fewer customers. Already customers are spending less. Okay, some companies start cutting costs. They may reduce staff, reduce overtime, or freeze salaries. Economists at firms like Ernst and Young have already said that Kenya's tax regime is almost saturated. That means the government is close to the limit, okay, of how much it can tax without killing production and growth. So if taxes go up again, we might see a slower growth than the projected 5% plus in 2026 or worse even. Let's talk about inflation, interest rate, and loans. When the government taxes more, it usually has to borrow more to fund the gap. That increases the national debt burden. Global rating agencies like S&P have warned that tight fiscal and monetary policies, hmm, higher taxes and higher interest rates can make borrowing more expensive for banks. Push interest rates higher for your loans and it can increase the risk of more loan to be defaulted. So imagine you want to open a small shop. Tax on your profit goes up. Interest on your loan also goes up. Everything is going up and your monthly repayment rises faster than your profit. That is how entrepreneurs get squeezed when taxes go up. Okay? Hope you have understood that one. Now let's talk about businesses, startups, SMEs, and big companies. Some people say, let's tax our big companies, not us. But the reality is more complicated. In 2025, the finance bill removed tax exemption for a medium-sized enterprises. That means more SMEs have to pay tax, even if they were previously exempt. If taxes go up again, startups may struggle to break even. SMEs might delay hiring or expansion, and big companies might pass costs to consumers through higher prices. One report from PwC also shows that Kenya is introducing a domestic minimum top-up tax under the OECD Pillar 2 rule. Okay, that means multinational companies have to pay at least 15% effective tax, even if they try to shift profits abroad. Sounds fair? Yes, in theory. But if they pass those costs to you, the consumer, it still feels like a tax on you. Okay? What happens to the ordinary Kenyans, youths, the Gen Zs, the people who earn less? Let's talk about the middle class, the people who are not rich but also who are not that poor. Okay? Right now, a person earning Kenyan shilling 30,000 to 80,000 is already feeling squeezed from high rent, high fuel, and transport costs. Education and healthcare bills all are up. If taxes go up again, their net salary shrinks. Prices of basic goods rise, and they start cutting corners. Fewer market days, cheaper foods, lesser luxury spending. Okay, and several studies show that a Kenyan tax burden falls heavily on employees, not on a broader tax base like property, wealth, or high-end assets. So when the government says we need more revenue, it often ends up hitting you, the salaried worker. It will hit you the hardest. Okay. Now let's talk about youth, unemployed, and people in rural areas. Now think about young people who are either unemployed or working in an informal sector. If formal employees are taxed more, companies might hire fewer people formally. That means more youths end up in mjengo or casual jobs, which are it is harder to tax but also harder to protect. Okay. In rural Kenya, people who rely on agriculture, small trading, local transport will feel the pain when a fuel tax goes up or a VAT pushes up the prices of input like fertilizer, seeds, and transport. So higher taxes don't just affect Nairobi and Mombasa. They ripple out into every villages, every town and every shamba there in Ushago. Let's not forget the retirees and pensioners. In the Finance Act of 2025, the government started removing some pension tax exemption. For example, some pension payouts that were previously tax-free up to a certain limit now become taxable. That means smaller retirement income for many people. The, getting less in short. If taxes go up again, those limits could be cut further or taxes increased, eating into already tight retirement budget. So elderly parents or a grandparent who depend on pension might start cutting food, medicine or transport just to survive. That is how bad it is. Now let's talk about what government is actually trying to do. Here is a key phrase you are going to hear from economists on television. They usually say widen the tax base, don't just raise rates. That means bring more people and businesses into the tax net legally instead of squeezing the small group even harder. It also means reduce tax evasion and loopholes, especially for big players. In Kenya, right now, about 50% of the adult population work in an informal sector. Most of them don't file tax returns, but they still pay VAT and exercise. Okay? Every time they buy fuel or data, they pay. So the government is trying to use KRA digital system to track more businesses, encourage registration of small and medium traders, introduce a simpler tax regime for low income earners. If they do that, well, they can raise more revenue without raising a headline tax rates. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the digital taxation and the Facebook tax legacy, which have been brought up by Ruto. Now remember the Facebook tax that everyone fought against in 2021. That was a digital service tax on an online platform. Kenya has since rolled back and restructured some of those some of those digital tax ideas, but the door is still open. If taxes go up again, the government might levy more on a digital platform. They might tax online transaction apps, fintech services more aggressively. The problem, when you tax a digital tool, you are also taxing small businesses, which is selling online, freelancers, and the creators earning from YouTube, social media, and e-commerce. So even if the law says this is for a big tech, the burden trickles down to you again. Okay? Now let's talk about what a real tax increase would look like. Let's take a real example. Say you earn Kenyan shilling 50,000 per month. Right now, after pay, you take home around the 30 to 40, 41 there, depending on deduction and benefits. Now imagine Parliament increases the first bracket from 10% to 15% and either removes or cuts your personal relief. Even a small rate hike on first Kenyan shilling 24,000 can push your monthly take home down by 500 or 1,000. There, multiply that over a year. That is a Kenyan shillings 6,000, 12,000 less in your pocket up to 20,000 gone. Now imagine that same it for millions of salaried workers. That is a less money flowing into our markets, schools, matatus, and small businesses. That is how tax hikes can just slow down the economy instead of fixing it. Now let's talk about this VAT rise to 18 to 20%. Let's take a weekly shopping basket of Kenya shilling 5,000. Say 60% to 70 of that is VAT able item, being food, toiletries, electronics. If VAT rises from 16 to 18, that is a percent point increase on Kenya shilling 3,500 of tax good. That is an 70 to 100 per week, something like that. Weekly 70 to 100 less. Monthly 300 to 400 gone, just like that. And yearly that is 3,600 to 5,000 more. That is like paying for another month or something. Okay. Now think about millions of just households feeling that pressure. That is how inflation expectation hit up and people started cutting non-essential spending. Just another scenario is if fuels and data taxes if to go up, if the government just raises a fuel excess duty even by 5 to 10 on liter, it will hit you in three ways. You pay more on the pump. Number two, matatu and boda prices and good cost more because of transport. Same thing with data and the internet. If the government adds another 1 to 2% excise on the mobile data, that means more expensive YouTube bundles, more expensive Zoom calls for remote work, more expensive POS and M-Pesa transaction. So when real taxes might go up again, it is not just about an extra line on your payslip. It is about your fuel, your data, your transport, and your food. Now let's talk about a ripple effect across economy. Let's follow the chain. You pay more tax, you have less, just a small money to spend. You spend less in shops, markets, and online. Businesses sales less. Businesses make less profit. They hire fewer people, cut overtime or free salaries. Okay? And fewer people will get employed. Government will collect less tax. Okay? You know, experts at firms like EY and Grant Thornton have already warned that Kenya's tax system is close to its limit. If the government raises taxes too much, they might actually collect less revenue because people will stop formal employment and businesses go underground or back, and consumers will buy less. That is a danger of overtaxing. You think you are fixing the book, but you are actually strangling the economy. That is actually what is happening. And now let's talk about inflation and interest rate battles. Right now, inflation in Kenya is around 4 to 4.5 per year. If a government taxes more on fuel, food, and transport, that can push inflation even higher. When inflation rises, the Central Bank of Kenya often raises interest rate to calm things down. So you end up with higher prices because of taxes plus inflation, higher interest rates because of inflation. Yeah, that means loans become more expensive. Businesses delay expansion. You reconsider buying a car, renovating, or starting a new project because life is already hard. So a tax hike today can delay your dreams tomorrow. Now, let's talk about what happens to government debt. Kenya's national debt has been rising for years. The government borrows to build roads, hospitals, schools, and pay civil servants. If taxes go up, the idea is more revenue, less borrowing, and lower debt risk. But in practice, if taxes kill growth, the economy shrinks and grows slowly. So, the debt to GDP ratio can still get worse. Global rating agencies watch this closely. If they think Kenya is overtaxed or undergrowing, they might downgrade the country's credit rating. That would mean higher borrowing costs from international markets, more pressure on Kenya shilling, and more risk of currency instability. So, taxes are not just a do more button. They are balancing act between raising money and keeping the economy alive. Now let's talk about how this affects you personally. If you are earning between Kenya shilling 30,000 and 80,000, you are already in the middle income trap. That means you are taxed, but you still feel every shilling going out. If taxes go up again, you will likely see smaller take home pay, higher prices for food, fuel, and data, fewer job opportunities if companies cut back. So, what can you do? Please track your budget very tightly. We will talk about tools later. Next, negotiate benefits, medical covers, transport allowance, housing. Look for a side income that is less tax or in the informal sector but safe. You don't have to accept being squeezed. You just have to plan and adapt. Okay, now what will you do if you run a small businesses? If you are running a small shop, saloon, kiosk, farm, or a transport businesses like matatu, taxes hit you in two ways. Direct taxes on your profit. Number two, indirect taxes on the goods and services you buy, fuel, fertilizer, packaging, data, something like that. If taxes go up again, you might raise prices and risk losing customers. Cut costs, fewer staffs, cheaper input and less marketing, or stay exactly the same and eat the loss. The start move is keep better records so you know your real profit. Optimize VAT and input credits where you can. Diversify into a less taxed or tax exempt products or services. Because in high tax environment, the best run small businesses will survive. Not the biggest one, but the smartest that runs in a smart ways. And if you are a student, youth, or unemployed, if you are not working or you are earning a very little, a tax hike might feel unfair. But here is the truth. Every tax decision affects whether companies hire you, how much an employee can pay you, or how much you can afford to study. So instead of just being angry, you can understand the system so you can demand better. Learn skills that make you more valuable in a job market. Explore digital opportunities that are higher, that is harder to tax directly but still requires to pay taxes when it grows big. Because in a long run, an educated, skilled youth population is the best tax base for any country. Now, what you can do to protect yourself? If taxes go up, the first line of defense is good budgeting. That is what you can control. Simple steps. Write down all your income. List all your fixed expenses, rent, school fees, transport, bills, and track variable expenses like food, entertainment, shopping. You don't need expensive software. You can use a simple Excel sheet or a free budget app that is in Play Store, or even a notebook and a pen. You can write it down. If you know where your money goes, you can find the first Kenyan shilling 100, 500 to cut and save every month. And when taxes go up, that is the buffer that keeps you from panic. That small money that you save. Let's talk about income diversification and side hustles. You know, one of the most powerful moves that you can make is income diversification. If you are only counting on one salary, a tax hike can knock you off just like that. But if you have a side business, a freelance gig which is online, or a small investment, even a small saving with interest, you can absorb shock better. The key is don't overtax yourself with too many side hustles. You will burn out. Pick two to three income streams that you can manage very well. That will not burden you. Because in a high tax environment, multiple small streams add up to one big safety net that will help you. And also, let's understand these tax laws even at a basic level. You don't have to be a tax expert, but you should know what taxes you pay. PAYE, NSSF, SHA, what relief you are entitled to, personal relief, pension, okay, and what exemptions apply to your work or business. If you understand this, you can check your payslip and see if something's looks wrong. Ask your HR or the accountant and question. Avoid paying more than you should pay. And when a new tax law comes, you can read headlines critically instead of just reacting in fear. Don't fear. Now let's talk about protecting your mental health. This thing is making a lot of people mad. Let's be honest. Talking about taxes, bills, and inflation is actually very, very stressful, even for me. If taxes go up again, you might feel helpless, angry, worried about your family. But remember, anxiety does not reduce the tax bill. Panic does not negotiate better deals. So, protect your mental health, my friend. Talk to people about money instead of just bottling it up. Laugh, move, and rest. Even when the economy is tight, focus on what you can control. Budgeting, skills, side hustles, and the attitude. Because the economy is big, but your life is bigger than economy. Okay? And now, what can you do now? That is what we should talk about even. Before you close this video, here are 3 things that you can do right now. Number 1, check your last payslip and see how much it has been deducted. Number 2, open a simple budget. Even a 1-page plan for a next month. And number 3, comment below with one thing that you are worried about if taxes go up again. Is it rent, fuel, data, or school fees? When you share, you are not alone. We are all in this together. Okay? We are all in this together, my friend. It is not only you. And now let me tell you my final honest thought. If taxes go up again in Kenya, the impact will be real. Your salary will feel smaller. Your shopping bill will feel heavier. And your business might get squeezed. But there is a good news. You still have power. You can plan, adapt, learn, and speak up. So don't just watch this video and forget. Use this knowledge, and if you found this helpful, like, share, subscribe, follow. So more Kenyans, so that more Kenyans can understand what is really happening with their taxes. Okay? Cool. Now subscribe for more real life money and the policy breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Adan Diba. I am the Supreme Leader of Republic of Kenya. Until then, watch your budget, watch your taxes, and watch your future. Peace.